Travis, we always appreciate an opportunity to get your perspective on things because you are so open and willing to talk about things. You
Right.
have gone through a rough time recently. You and I are friends on Facebook, and I didn't see it until probably 2 days later. I'm on Facebook a lot, just checking in on things. But sometimes I miss something, and I was away from Facebook for like a 48-hour period when my phone died, and
Mhm.
you posted something that was pretty devastating. Do you want to tell us what you posted?
Yeah, I just actually ended up attempting to commit suicide, and I posted a video saying goodbye to everybody on Facebook, and I was gonna jump off of a parking garage, and luckily the police came, got there on time, and tried to talk me down, and I came down, but dealing with a lot of depression from social isolation and loneliness, things like that. So, and
Unfortunately, somebody did see the post. You were pretty detailed about talking about what it was that you wanted to do, and so the police were able to stop you to do it. But that's, you know, when things get that bad, it's, of course, it's ridiculous for me to say this, but it's incredibly serious. It doesn't get more serious than that.
mhm.
But you did get some help, and you
Yeah.
are feeling better. What ended up happening as a result of that?
Well, I went inpatient for about 6 days, got on some new medications, and I tried to educate my treatment team, and that's one of the biggest struggles for me with having high functioning autism is educating the treatment team. Um, they're really focused on treating the mental illness, which is good, but in autism, a lot of times autism doesn't cause mental illness, but situations that you can be in your life because you have autism can cause mental illness. Like if you're socially isolated, it's not autism causing mental illness, it's a social isolation causing the mental illness.
Yeah.
And so things that happen to you because you have autism can cause mental illness. And they're so focused on treating the mental illness part, but they don't pay any attention. Like I have never had any social skills training or anything like that at all. They don't want to pay any attention to what's causing the social thing, the
Right.
mental illness.
And
So,
so here you are. You're a young adult who's on the autism spectrum, but you also have a schizophrenia diagnosis.
correct,
So
correct.
what is a lot of people have a misunderstanding about what schizophrenia is. How does that manifest itself in explain to our audience because you hear voices, correct?
Yes, correct. And actually, I don't know if you know this or not, but they used to think that autism was schizophrenia at first. Um, and so there's a lot of similarities, and then there's some differences too. But the interesting thing for me is it's hard to tell what symptom is from what disorder.
Right.
Um,
And
and
also I will say just as somebody who is your friend that I think sometimes it's hard for you to sort out when something isn't working, which thing is it that's preventing it from working? I
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. So when your voices talk to you, they say they tell you to do things that you know aren't the thing to do. Correct?
Yeah, like they try and get me to self harm and cut myself. They try and get me to light myself on fire. They try and tell me to like jump off of the parking garage, for example.
Yeah.
Um, just different things, and it's all self harming stuff. It's nothing that's like doing anything to anybody else. It's all just negative talk about me. Um, and so I try to ignore them and I try to talk back. But when you have schizophrenia, it can be very hard to tell what is real and what is not real in your life.
Right. Right.
And
And you expressed to me that even that it's hard because even the autism community struggles to understand what it is you're going through.
yeah, because your behavior is different than someone with just autism. And so people in the autism community, they wonder like, they're like, what's wrong with this kid? Because he's not behaving typically like an adult with high functioning autism.
Yeah.
Um, but what's going on is it's very hard to know what's the truth and what's not the truth because you're hearing all these voices, and when you hear voices, that's also not part of reality. It's part of the make believe world. But then you have to figure out, well, what is the make believe world because of autism, and what is the make believe world because of the voices or the hallucinations?
And
So you have to try.
I know people watching this are looking at you and going, wow, well, what an incredibly intelligent, articulate, capable young man, and he can write. So, what's the big problem? But unfortunately, they don't, and this is, I think, one of the issues that happens with both mental illness and with autism, and you're dealing with both, is that people
Yeah.
look at things and see what it looks like and don't know what the internal is. So,
Right.
on the one hand, you are somebody who has been very vocal about the fact that you would like to be in a relationship with a woman, and that that's something that you're really craving.
Right.
But it's
Absolutely.
but it's really hard to get to the point where you can be in a relationship with somebody because of some of the things that you're dealing with.
Right.
And then that makes you isolated, and and there's some real depression that comes with that, I imagine.
Yeah, and what happens is for me, like people think that I have good social skills because I do. I have basic daily adaptive living skills. I have the good basic social skills, but I don't have the social thinking component to be able to read body language or nonverbal communication or tell what somebody means by their tone of voice. That's very hard for me. And plus, I'm a very black and white thinker. There's no gray areas. So what either happens with a girl that I want to date, I either come on too strong and smother her, or I don't interact with her at all. Like that's black and white for me. There's no in betweens in my brain.
And since you had said we could be honest about this, since we're being honest, then I think it's important to let the people in the audience know that this has left you vulnerable to people who have attempted to try to take advantage of you.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it makes me like I actually believed that because of my autism, I had to pay people to hang out with me.
Yeah.
Because for the longest time, a lot of women would tell me they'd go to dinner with me if I paid them or if I bought them stuff. And I just kind of, when you're used to that happening over and over again, it gets driven into your head. And for some reason, I have the hallucinations and the voices tell me that I have to pay an autism fee or an autism bill in order to like a girl. And I know that they're not right, but I just keep hearing that over and over again. So it's very frustrating to have to spend a lot of money on paying people to hang out with you, which I'm trying not to do anymore.
Right.
But it caused me to do a lot of things like I had tried to run my own business, and I would end up using business money to pay people to hang out with me, so people didn't get their services delivered on time. And so I am in the process of trying to pay a bunch of people back for the services that I did not get to them, and I'm going to pay everybody back as soon as I'm getting well on my feet and working and having a job and stuff like that. But I ended up the mistake was using business funds to pay people to hang out with me because I didn't have any other money to pay people to hang out.
And what we appreciate is your honesty and letting people know, because I know that there are people watching who are like, oh my gosh, I don't want this to happen to me, or I don't want this to happen to my kid. And I think it's really important that we talk about this, because as soon as people, and what I've talked to you about, I've seen that there are people who have seen this, that you were willing to pay, and that attracted the entire wrong element.
Right.
That women who, there's a name for that, right? You and I have talked about that. That those are not the women that you want to be dating. If they think that you have to pay their bills, that's a form of prostitution, and that's not who we want to hook you up with, Travis. Quite frankly,
Right.
we want you to meet a
Well,
nice.
it's not who I want to be with.
Right. Okay, somebody wrote in and said, how does Travis find his social circle and trusted adults to help him? And this is right at the crux of the matter, right? Because this is what you're having a hard time with.
Absolutely. I have a really good neurotypical friend who helps me out quite a bit. Her name's Heather. So she tries to network and help me find some different groups to be in and stuff like that. But
it's hard.
There's not a lot around here for one.
Right. And that makes it really difficult. So what are some of the things that you've tried that have not worked? And what are some of the things that you've tried that are working a little bit?
Some of the things that I find that do not work is having a support group for all adults with Asperger's syndrome or autism, because it's very hard. You know how people with Asperger's and autism can be very set in their ways. So we ran into issues when we wanted to try and plan like a social outing. Some people wanted to go to a baseball game. Some people wanted to go to a hockey game. Some people wanted to go shopping at the mall. Some people wanted to go play a video game somewhere. And they want to do their own special interest thing. So nobody can ever agree on something to do. So it's very important for me to find a group where there's an NT, neurotypical facilitator, who can help facilitate those things and help everybody agree on something. Because otherwise, I feel like we're just wasting our time. We end up not agreeing on anything, and we never go anywhere or do anything.
When we're done, I want you to look up. There's a new organization. We just had the founder of it last week on the show called Fabulous Friends, and it's a social group that meets once a month, and they're starting chapters in different places. And maybe you and your friend Heather could start one there.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be great. I would love to.
And Marissa Hacker, they're on Facebook, and they have their own website. But Marissa Hacker started it. I'm sure she'd love to help you set one up where you are. And then what about, who do you have that you can trust for adults where you are? I know there are a lot of people, myself included, that are on Facebook that try to check in with you from time to time, but we're not there. Who do you have that's there that you can count on?
Well, I live at home with my parents right now, so I have my parents and my sister. And I would say then the only other person would be my good friend Heather.
Okay.
So.
Well, Travis, we think that you're awesome. I know that you're fighting the good fight and finding the meds to be in the sweet spot, and you look like you're feeling better. I hope that you are. And
I keep taking the meds, taking the medication.
Well, that's important. And your writing, and your writing, I hope helps you, but it also is helping everybody else to understand as well. Tell them. So again, they can go to Amazon. And search Travis Breeding, Breeding. Sometimes it helps if you put autism in, it'll take you right to that and you'll be able to see all of Travis's books. They're affordably priced. When you buy a book on Amazon, not only will you have the gift of the book, but you'll be helping to support Travis. And Travis, you also mentioned that you have a GoFundMe page. How do we find that?
Search for the page. It's called Help Me Try Nutrition for Autism.
Okay.
And it's on GoFundMe.
Okay. And people can make donations there to help you to stay gluten-free.
Yes.
And we should say you have tried several different times to work. I mean, obviously you do work, you write books, and you started your own publishing company because you're so prolific. You thought to yourself, well, if I can do this for myself, I can help other people to do that. But it was tough. What were some of the challenges that you came across?
Just socially not being able to connect with the other people as much. It wasn't that I couldn't do the job. It was that I would get frustrated with myself for not being able to flirt with people or not being able to connect with people on deeper levels. I was always just an acquaintance, and I didn't know how to interact with the other people. But also at the same time, when I'm working, I hear voices telling me that my coworkers are out to get me or trying to hurt me, things like that.
It's hard.
So I end up not going to work because of that, and then end up losing the job. But I'm really excited because I'm trying it out. I would like to do autism consulting and talk to families. So I'm starting out at $20 an hour to talk to families and give advice on autism and things like that. So I'm hoping that will go well for me. And then with my books, I'm hoping those will go well too and help me out.
Yes. Somebody just wrote in and said, I appreciate Travis being so honest and look forward to checking out his books.